Are you also on a virtual journey? Yes? Do you want to tell Sava to start his arara? Or are you talking instead?
Ronnie, so I have to go on my virtual journey, so I'm going to give you now to your mommy. Say bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you soon when you visit me in Israel. Bye. So today's virtual journey is actually as a result of a request from Rabbi Mark Weiner. Rabbi Mark Weiner is actually the man that I have to thank for a slight change that I made at some point in the way that I guide. In 2005, the 40th anniversary of the Nostra Aetate, the document published by the Catholic Church, which absolves the Jewish people of deicide, we take a group to Rome, a group that I organized together with Rabbi Weiner, to have a meeting and a conversation with the Pope. Unfortunately, the Pope got very ill during the time that we were there and we were not able to meet him. But the crucial thing that happens on that trip is that I meet with Rabbi Jonathan Miller of Birmingham, Alabama, who then gets in touch with me a few months later and invites me to be a guide on the first of what has become now 5, and this next month was supposed to be the 6th, and we'll do it in 2021, Friendship Journey. Jews and Christians traveling together from Birmingham, Alabama. It was the first time that I'd ever done interfaith guiding, and I was a little bit apprehensive about what it would be like. What I wanted to do today was to take you just to a couple of sites on this virtual journey, a couple of Jewish and Christian sites, to give you a taste of what these journeys are. I am going to mention 2 other clergy people, Rabbi David Strauss of Mainline Reform in Philadelphia, and Reverend Cindy Jarvis, a Presbyterian minister, also from Philadelphia, now in retirement. When I ask rabbis what Jewish sites they want to visit, the rabbis don't always go for what we would call religious Jewish sites, but they often go for sites which are about the creation or the existence of the State of Israel, while Christian ministers generally focus in very much on sites connected to Jesus. I'm going to take you to a couple of these sites. The first site we're going to visit are actually the southern steps of the Temple Mount. If I was in charge of deciding which would be the holiest site to visit in terms of as a Jewish person, I have to admit I would go for the southern steps, way ahead of the Western Wall. Now, I just can't talk about the southern steps sitting down, so I'm actually going to get up. So you can probably tell that I'm really passionate about this place. I'm passionate about this place because of all the places that I guide in Israel, of all of the Jewish sites in Israel, and the vast majority of the sites, of course, are Jewish sites. This is the one which I think really speaks for me to the question of what Israel is and what Israel actually can be. Everything about this place is so special. When you walk into the area of the southern steps and you see all of the mikvaot, plural of the word mikvah, ritual bath, that have been excavated over the years by archaeologists, and you realize that this was the place where up to 100,000 Jews in every one of the pilgrimage festivals made sure they were ritually pure before entering the area of the temple, the excitement begins to grow already. When I sit down with you on the bottom of the steps and I ask for a volunteer who possibly had an athletic scholarship to college, and you climb up the steps and you come back and report the extraordinary fact about the steps, I'm not going to tell you now. When we are there together, you will see what I'm talking about. Those of you who have been, please don't give it away to those who have not been yet. Even when you get to the question of who goes in the in gates and who comes out the out gates, everybody does. Once again, I'm not going to tell you about the one group that does not. We're going to talk about it when we are actually on the southern steps. It all ultimately comes down to this is a place where the notion of holiness, the notion of empathy, and the notion of what it could possibly mean for us as a Jewish people to return to the land of Israel and create a new state. I think this is where it all comes together. What I love about the area of the Jewish steppes, it affords us with an opportunity to talk about not only a particular historical archaeological find, but a find which reverberates through until today in terms of what Israel was created to be and what I hope Israel will actually live up to being in its future. So before I started doing the interfaith guiding, I decided to go and listen to a number of Israeli guides guiding groups of Christian pilgrims. Listening to them, I realized that my guiding was going to be different. That my guiding would actually look at would not only tell the story of Jesus' birth, life, death, resurrection, using of course the Christian terms, in the land of Israel, but actually also would be a critical look at the relationship between Christianity and the Jewish people over the centuries. So of course I started in the following place. And this I'm reading now from the Gospel of Mark. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took with him Peter and James and John and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." Of course, it happens in the Garden of Gethsemane. By the way, Gethsemane, in Hebrew, Gat Shmanim, and when you understand the Hebrew, as you really need to know Hebrew to understand the story of Jesus in the land of Israel, because of course his life happens in Hebrew, Gat Shmanim means the place of the olive press. When you see the olive trees, things fall into place. I start over here because my first statement in interfaith guiding is that we have the responsibility both to be aware of the difficult past and to make a decision of what the future will look like. I want to take you to one further site connected to the story of the ministry of Jesus, and maybe tell you another one or two stories connected to this place that really might make you look at it differently when you visit. So we're heading to the north of Israel. We're heading to the Galilee. And I'm going to take you now to a site which combines visual beauty and a very, very powerful part of the story of the life and the ministry of Jesus. I need to say a few things about this before we go to the text and we do the visit. First of all, you might be saying to yourselves, hang on, but why do you include a site like this for Jewish people, not only for interfaith? And my answer is this. I really believe that almost all the Jewish people that I guide live within a world in which the ethos, the language of the world that they live in is very much influenced by Christianity. When you speak English, you're often using phrases that even without you thinking about them come from the story of Jesus, from the Gospels, from the language that is seeped into English that has so much to do with the story of the life and ministry of Jesus. The society you're part of, the art history that you have learned is also filled with iconography and symbolism connected to Christianity. So we are going to visit now the Mount of the Beatitudes. I had visited the Beatitudes many times before the JCRC of Philadelphia mission to Israel in February 2014. The way I visit the Beatitudes today has changed fundamentally because of the day I visited over there. I'm going to mention now another minister of the church, Reverend Charles Flood. Reverend Charles Flood had prepared himself in the most extraordinary way for this trip. Each of the Christian sites and many of the Jewish sites, he had prepared for them something that looked a little bit like this. It'll be on your screen for much longer in a moment. And what Charles Flood did was he tried to include in his in every visit of ours a piece of very thoughtful text and preparation that he had done. I have to say something about Charles. Charles's ministry was forever influenced by the fact that he was the chaplain in the New York City morgue on 9/11. When the terrible disaster of 9/11 struck the United States, New York City, Manhattan, Charles was the person who dealt with many of the people who were coming to the morgue to look for the remains of their loved one and stayed for counseling with Charles for many years afterwards. Charles, well, your teaching on our visit changed the way I look at this place forever. So on your screen now, you see the Beatitudes. Extraordinary words. But Charles added a thought on this particular visit that really, I have to say, impacted on me hugely. He suggested that the beautiful manicured lawns of the Beatitudes, the way it is laid out to calm you rather than force you to face this revolutionary set of statements put into the mouth of Jesus by the gospel, really show that the church has misunderstood and maybe misused the statements made in the Beatitudes. Charles suggested that the place of the Beatitudes should be a place with thorn bushes, should be edgy, should really be pushing the envelope in terms of what the words of Jesus really mean in this particular situation. I want to add one additional fact just to make it even more edgy, the visit to the Beatitudes. There is a beautiful octagonal church, a chapel on the hill where, according to tradition, Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount. You need to know something about this church, and I wonder if you know this, whether it'll change the way you understand this space. The church was built in 1938. There is an older church down on the hillside, a Byzantine church from somewhere between the 4th and 7th centuries. But the church that we visit today, the octagonal church, is from 1938, and it was designed by the architect Barluzzi. And this is the part that is really a little difficult. The money for the construction of churches in the Holy Land by the Italian Catholic Church was money that was given to the church in the late 1930s by Mussolini's fascists. Part of the deal the fascists made with the Catholic Church in Italy when Mussolini came to power was, look the other way and we will fund that which the church needs. Now when I tell the story over there, both the story of Reverend Charles Flood and his understanding of what the gardens need to be, and of the fact that the church was built in 1938, I do wonder to myself, am I doing the wrong thing or not? But as with many other sites in Israel, I feel that there's nothing else I can do. I have to raise the questions that these sites raise. One last visit today, and that visit is actually going to be to a document, a whimsical document in a way, which tells a different story. So the Jewish sites that we visit. So one of the Jewish sites that we visit is actually not a site. It's a notion. And the notion is the notion of what happens when the Jewish people have an opportunity to create an independent state. When the Jewish people return to the land of Israel. Now I want to put a document on the screen now, which in a way will I think, help us focus on what this means for us. What you see in front of you now on the screen is something that is put out by an organization called Makom, which is part of the Jewish Agency for Israel. The side you're looking at now basically looks like 4 little postcards. And in the 4 postcards in the English, it says, to be a free people in our land. A line taken from the anthem of the State of Israel, Liot Am Chofshi Be'artzeinu. And there's a question mark next to each of the phrases, meaning what does it mean to be a free people in our land? And now, as we turn over to the other side, which is now on your screen, you'll see that it suggests there are a number of things. So to be talks about life, hashtag security, hashtag power, hashtag hope. Note also that there are two figures. The one figure is just kicking back, sunglasses on, and the other figure is a soldier of the IDF running into battle. People, hashtag tradition, hashtag tribe, hashtag ideals, hashtag hope. And you'll see, of course, two very, very different ways of being part of the people. On the one hand, a Jew holding a Sefer Torah, a Torah scroll, with tefillin on his forehead, phylacteries on his forehead. And on the other side, a Jew with a V for victory and a peace sign on his chest. And in the middle, a third person holding two of them together, trying somehow to keep these very different interpretations of what it means to be a people, holding them together in some way. To be free, and then you'll see hashtag independence, hashtag rights, hashtag creativity, hashtag hope, and the two images. One of somebody floating like a butterfly, and on the other hand, putting a ballot into the ballot box. And in the last one, in our land, on hashtag home, hashtag holy, hashtag maps, hashtag hope. Two different things happening in this land. On the one side, a figure in the old city waving the Israeli flag, and notice the Dome of the Rock is also in the old city. And on the other hand, one of the figures one of the figures working the land. So as I say goodbye to you on this today's virtual journey, in which you had a look at just a couple of sites and notions connected to interfaith guiding, I want to end with the following. All of my interfaith groups up to now have been Christians and Jews except for one. The one group that I did for the JCRC of Philadelphia, once again thanks to the incredible efforts of Rabbi David Strauss and Adam Kessler, formerly of the JCRC. One of the great things in this group was that there were 3 Muslims in the group as well. It was wonderful. It was wonderful having all 3 of the Abrahamic faiths represented in an interfaith group. My hope for the future is that there are many interfaith groups such as these. Let me leave you with a thought. I thought that my mission in guiding was to tell the Jewish story to Jewish people. Today, I feel that I have a slightly broader mission. It is still at the core of my work, telling the Jewish story, asking the powerful questions, confronting those things which are so important to confront, mainly with Jewish people. At the same time, I have to add that the one group a year, generally turns out to be one group a year of interfaith guiding, is just fantastic. It is an opportunity to really confront some of the most painful parts of Jewish history, while at the same time making a statement about how different this world can be in the future. So to end, once again, a thank you to Rabbis Mark Weiner, Jonathan Miller, and David Strauss for being my guides in the interfaith journey, and to the many, many ministers of the faith, of the Christian faith, Melissa Patrick, Cindy Jarvis, Ed Hurley, Barry Vaughan, and many others that I've had the opportunity to work with. It has been wonderful to be with you. And of course, it's Friday, so Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and see you on the next virtual journey after Shabbat.